The stench of blood sweat and synthetic lubricant hung in the stale air of the Helios arena. Kai Mercer tightened the worn leather straps around his wrists, mentally calculating the sum in his head for the 100th time. 87,000 credits saved. 13,000 to go. That's what stood between his sister and freedom. Above him, the crowd roared. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy packed into the rusty orbital station, circling the lawless asteroid belt known as the Fringe. Their silhouettes danced against flashing neon holo ads, promising glory or death, and witness the slaughter. Once such spectacle had sickened him. Now it was just background noise. "You're up in 5 meat," rasped the procurer, a spindly alien with translucent skin, revealing shifting internal organs. "Triple match tonight. Xanthos says you finish all 3 big payoff." Kai didn't respond, simply nodded and pulled the activation lever on his cybernetic claws. The steel talons slid from their housing in his forearms with a mechanical hiss gleaming under the harsh lights of the preparation chamber. The procurer flinched, backing away toward the corridor. "Just win human," it muttered. "For your sake." Alone again, Kai closed his eyes. The crowd's feral chanting seemed to fade as he focused on the image he carried into every fight Elise's face. Not as he'd last seen her gaunt and terrified, as Viscaris Mining Corporation enforcers dragged her away to settle their father's debts, but as she'd been before, bright-eyed, laughing, full of dreams beyond their cramped colony apartment. For Elise, he whispered a mantra more than a prayer. The klaxon sounded, and the floor beneath him began to rise. Kai steadied his breathing, centering his weight as the hydraulic lift carried him upward to the arena. The crowd's roar grew deafening as he emerged into the artificial light, a chorus of bloodlust that had no species or language. Across the circular fighting pit, 3 doors began to open. His opponents would come one after another. No rest, no repairs, just survival. Kai stretched his neck and raised his claws, the crowd's cheers intensifying at the glint of metal. From the first door emerged a crawl warrior, reptilian and massive, wielding a plasma-edged battle axe. The creature bellowed a sound like grinding stone, thudding its scaled tail against the arena floor. Its yellow eyes locked onto Kai. "Fight!" boomed the announcer's voice, and the crowd erupted. The crawl charged surprisingly fast for its bulk. Kai waited until the last possible moment before twisting sideways, feeling the superheated edge of the axe pass centimeters from his spine. Years in the pits had taught him that crawl warriors were powerful, but predictable, all frontal assault and no subtlety. As the creature's momentum carried it past, Kai slashed upward with his left claw, catching the soft underside of the crawl's arm. Greenish blood sprayed across the arena floor, drawing howls of approval from the spectators. The crawl roared in pain and fury, swinging wildly. Kai ducked beneath the arc of the weapon and drove forward metal claws, seeking the known vulnerability at the base of the crawl throat. The creature attempted to back away, but slipped in its own blood. Kai pressed his advantage, leaping forward to pin the massive reptilian. For a moment, the yellow eyes widened, perhaps in recognition of imminent death, perhaps in surprise that a mere human could best it. Then Kai's claws found their target, and the light in those eyes dimmed forever. Kai rose, spattered with alien blood, barely acknowledging the crowd's approval. One down. The second door was already opening. An hour later, Kai stood amidst the bodies of 3 opponents. The crawl warrior. A pair of Vector assassins, cybernetically enhanced and wielding neural disruptors that had momentarily paralyzed his left arm. His body ached, blood, both his and alien, cooling on his skin. But he remained standing. The crowd chanted his fighting name, Terran Blade, Terran Blade. Kai barely heard them. 13,000 credits. After tonight, he would have enough. After 3 years of selling his blood in this orbital hell, he could finally buy his sister's contract and free her from the toxic minds of Viscaris 7. They could disappear to one of the outer colonies, start again. The arena floor descended, returning him to the preparation chambers below. His handler, a weathered former fighter named Jurgen, met him with a med pack and a rare smile. "You did it, you crazy bastard," Jurgen said, applying healing gel to a gash on Kai's forehead. "Triple kill against those odds, Xanthos is gonna pay big." "Just get me the transfer," Kai muttered, wincing as the gel sealed his wound. "I leave for Viscaris 7 tomorrow." Jurgen's smile faltered. "Boss wants to see you directly. Said to clean you up and send you to his office." Alarm prickled at the back of Kai's neck. Xanthos never dealt directly with fighters. The promoter watched from his luxury box, counted his profits, and left the bloody details to underlings. Something was wrong. 30 minutes later, Kai stood before an ornate door on the station's upper level. The contrast between the squalid fighting pits and this corridor of plush carpet and ambient lighting made his jaw clench. So much wealth built on the blood and desperation of beings like him. The door slid open to reveal a spacious office. One entire wall was transparent, offering a view of the gleaming asteroid belt beyond the station. Xanthos sat behind a massive desk of polished Venusian marble, a grotesquely obese human whose natural body ended at the neck, the rest replaced by a hovering mechanical chassis. His fleshy face broke into a wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The Terran Blade himself," Xanthos exclaimed, his voice incongruously melodious from such a repulsive form. "What a performance, you've made me quite wealthy tonight." "My payment," Kai said flatly. 13,000 credits to complete our agreement." Xanthos waved a mechanical appendage dismissively. "Always so direct. No appreciation for the finer points of negotiation." He pressed a button on his desk. "I have something far more valuable than mere credits for you, my champion." A section of the office floor slid open, and a platform rose from below. Atop it sat a cage, and within the cage, Kai's breath caught. A female form huddled inside her skin, a pale green with intricate markings that seemed to shift subtly in the light. Her head was bowed, revealing a sweep of silver-white hair that concealed her face. "What is this?" Kai demanded, anger rising. "I fought for credits, not whatever this is." Xanthos grinned, revealing two perfect artificial teeth. "This, my simple friend, is a Verdante, the first captured specimen from their secretive homeworld, worth 50 times your pitiful 13,000 credits on certain markets." Kai stepped forward, fists clenched. "I don't deal in slaves. I want what you owe me." The promoter's smile vanished. "Careful, fighter. Remember your place." He gestured toward the cage. "The Hegemony Corporation paid me handsomely for this specimen, but there was, shall we say, a disagreement about terms. So I kept her. And now I'm transferring that valuable asset to you, more than settling our debt." "I need credits to buy my sister's contract," Kai growled. "Not some alien prisoner." Xanthos laughed a hollow sound. "Your sister's contract." His mechanical appendage activated a holo display. "Elise Mercer, indentured to Viscaris Mining Corporation." The display showed Elise's file, including her location and debt balance. "Did you really think 13,000 more credits would free her?" Icy dread spread through Kai's chest. "What are you talking about? Her debt was 100,000 credits." 3 years ago, perhaps. Xanthos's eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "But haven't you heard of compound interest administrative fees, performance penalties? Her debt now stands at nearly 500,000 credits." The room seemed to tilt beneath Kai's feet. "That's impossible. That's illegal even under corporate law." "No. Illegal." Xanthos laughed again. "On Viscaris 7, the corporation is the law." He gestured to the cage again. "Your only hope of seeing your sister again is to take this Verdante and find a buyer willing to pay handsomely. The Hegemony clearly values her highly." Kai struggled to think through his rage and despair. There had to be another way. He could kill Xanthos now, but the station security would ensure he never reached the docking bays. As if reading his thoughts, Xanthos pressed another button. 2 heavily armed guards entered silently, taking positions at the door. I've been generous offering you this opportunity. Don't make me regret it." The green-skinned captive hadn't moved or spoken, but as Kai glanced at the cage again, he noticed her fingers long, elegant, with an extra joint slowly uncurling from their clenched position. "Fine," he said, finally his voice hard. "I'll take your prize, but our business is finished." Xanthos's smile returned. "Excellent decision. The cage has a security lock keyed to your biosignature now. She's all yours." He waved a mechanical limb dismissively. "Dock 17 has a trader leaving for the outer systems in 3 hours. I suggest you be on it before the hegemony realizes their property is on the move." The guard stepped aside and Kai approached the cage. Up close, he could see the captive was secured with energy restraints at her wrists and ankles. A neural suppressor collar circled her slender neck. Standard slaver equipment. The sight made his stomach turn. "Can it understand me?" he asked, not looking back at Xanthos. "Oh yes. Verdante are highly intelligent. This one speaks several galactic languages." Xanthos sounded disturbingly like a merchant describing the features of luxury goods. "Though she's been rather uncooperative since her capture." Kai grasped the handle of the hovering cage. A scanner read his palm print, and the cage's systems linked to his biometrics. The green status light confirmed the transfer of ownership, a concept that made bile rise in his throat. Without another word to Xanthos, Kai guided the cage toward the door. The captive still hadn't looked up or acknowledged him in any way. Her stillness was unnerving, reminding him of predators he'd encountered who remained motionless until the perfect moment to strike. "Dock 17, Xanthos called after him. "Don't miss that transport fighter. The hegemony doesn't forgive theft." The journey through the station's upper levels drew stares and whispers. Even in this lawless corner of space, a caged Verdante was a shocking sight. Their species rarely ventured beyond their home system, and their advanced technology and formidable military had kept slavers and corporate interests at bay until now, apparently. Kai kept his expression neutral, moving purposefully toward the lower docking rings, where he could find passage off the station. His mind raced, trying to formulate a plan. He had meager savings, his fighting gear, and now a prisoner from one of the most mysterious species in known space. Somehow he needed to leverage this into enough credits to free Elise from an impossibly inflated debt. "If you're thinking of selling me, you should know the hegemony will kill you before you complete any transaction." The voice startled him low and melodious with an accent he couldn't place. The Verdante had spoken without raising her head, her face still concealed by that silver-white curtain of hair. "I'm not a slaver," Kai replied quietly, guiding the cage into a less crowded service corridor. "Yet here I am in a cage you now control." Her tone held no emotion, neither accusation nor fear. Kai stopped in the empty corridor, looking down at the cage. "I don't want you. I need credits to free my sister, that's all." For the first time, the Verdante raised her head. Kai found himself staring into eyes of deep violet, with vertically slitted pupils that studied him with unsettling intensity. Her face was elegantly proportioned, with high cheekbones and pointed ears that swept backward along her skull. The markings he'd noticed earlier continued across her face, intricate patterns that seemed to shimmer, with faint bioluminescence beneath her pale green skin. "Your sister," she repeated as if testing the word. "A blood relation held captive elsewhere." "Viscaris 7. Kai said, unsure why he was explaining himself to a prisoner. "Mining camps. I've been fighting for 3 years to earn her release price, only to learn they've inflated her debt beyond any possibility of payment." The Verdante's eyes narrowed slightly. "Corporations," she said the word like a curse. "They practice the same enslavement as the hegemony, merely cloaked in the language of contracts." Before Kai could respond, the corridor lights suddenly flashed red. A station-wide alert siren began to wail, and emergency blast doors started to close at intervals along the passageway. "They're here," the Verdante said calmly. "Who's here?" Kai demanded, though he already suspected the answer. The Hegemony Recovery Team. They've been tracking me since my capture. Her violet eyes held his. Your choice is simple now, human. Release me and run, or die beside my cage. The nearest blast door was descending rapidly. Kai made his decision in an instant, pressing his palm against the cage's security panel. The energy field deactivated with a soft hum, and the door swung open. The Verdante stepped out, moving with liquid grace despite her restraints. She turned, presenting her bound wrists to Kai. The control is on your wrist unit now. Kai hesitated only a moment before keying the command to release her restraints. The energy shackles disappeared, and the neural suppressor collar fell away. The Verdante rolled her shoulders, a subtle motion that nonetheless conveyed immense relief. Why was the Hegemony holding you? Kai asked, ducking beneath the half-closed blast door and pulling her after him. Later, she replied, suddenly alert. They're coming. No sooner had she spoken than the service door at the corridor's end burst inward. Black armored figures poured through, humanoid, but with helmets featuring distinctive red sensor arrays that identified them as Hegemony mercenaries. Elite hunters and corporate enforcers known throughout the galaxy for their brutality. Weapons? The Verdante asked tersely. Kai activated his cybernetic claws in response, the metal talons extending with a mechanical whisper. She nodded once. Stay behind me until you see an opening. Before Kai could protest, the Verdante launched herself forward with shocking speed. Her movements were nothing like the desperate scramble of an escaped prisoner. They were precise, lethal trained. She flowed between the first two mercenaries, her long fingers striking pressure points that dropped them instantly despite their armor. A third mercenary leveled a pulse rifle, but Kai was already moving, his fighting instincts taking over. He slashed across the weapon's barrel, severing it, then drove his other claw into the gap between helmet and chest plate. The mercenary fell with a gurgling cry. The corridor erupted into chaos. More mercenaries poured in, but the confined space limited their numerical advantage. The Verdante moved like living quicksilver, each strike precise and devastatingly effective. Kai fought at her side, his pit fighter brutality complementing her disciplined technique. A mercenary commander shouted through his helmet's amplifier, "Stand down. The Verdante asset is property of the Hegemony Corporation. Interference is punishable by immediate execution." Kai responded by hurling a fallen mercenary's helmet at the commander, following it with a lunging attack that drove his claws into the man's chest. As the commander collapsed, Kai grabbed his sidearm, a high-powered plasma pistol with corporate markings. "This way," the Verdante called, gesturing toward a maintenance shaft, now exposed by the commander's fallen body. "The docking ring is 3 levels down." They fought their way through 2 more groups of mercenaries before reaching a cargo elevator. The Verdante slammed her hand against the control panel, somehow overriding its security protocols. As the doors closed on their pursuers, Kai finally had a moment to process what was happening. "You're not an ordinary captive," he said, watching her wipe black mercenary blood from her fingers. She gave him a look that might have contained amusement. "And you're not an ordinary pit fighter." She extended her hand in a formal gesture. "I am Zia of the Silver Canopy clan, 7th heir to the Verdante High Council." Kai stared at her outstretched hand, then slowly took it. Kai Mercer, former colonial marine, current pit fighter, apparently now a dead man running from the Hegemony. "You freed me when you could have saved yourself," Zia observed. "That creates a debt bond among my people." The elevator slowed, approaching the docking level. Kai checked the plasma pistol's charge, nearly full. "Let's survive the next hour before discussing debts and bonds." The doors opened to reveal the chaotic docking ring. Alarms still blared, but this level swarmed with travelers rushing to board their ships before the station locked down completely. Corporation officials shouted instructions, while security drones hovered overhead. "We need a ship," Kai muttered, scanning the docking bays. Zia's gaze was already moving systematically across the area. "Bay 22, she said quietly. "Unmarked vessel, minimal security pilot, preparing for departure." Kai followed her line of sight to a sleek, mid-sized transport with no corporate markings. Its loading ramp was down, and a single figure moved cargo containers inside. "How did you—" he began. "Verdante visual acuity exceeds human range," she replied simply. "The pilot is armed but confident. Likely a smuggler or independent trader. Our best option." They moved through the crowd, keeping their heads down. The station's security forces were focused on the upper levels, where the hegemony mercenaries had breached, giving them a small window of opportunity. As they approached Bay 22, Kai studied their target, a compact but well-maintained Corellian transport, modified with extra shield generators, and what appeared to be concealed weapons ports. Definitely a smuggler. The pilot emerged from the ship again, a tall, lean woman with close-cropped gray hair and the hard eyes of someone who'd seen too much of the galaxy's darker corners. She wore a captain's jacket with no insignia and a holstered pistol on her hip. Kai made a split-second decision, stepping directly into her path with his hands visible. "We need passage off station, immediately." The woman's hand drifted toward her holster. "Not taking passengers, especially not during a station alert." Zia stepped forward, her violet eyes meeting the pilot's. "The hegemony is hunting us. They will lock down all departures within minutes. You can demand any price once we're safely away." Something changed in the pilot's expression, recognition perhaps, or simple calculation of profit versus risk. "Hegemony, eh?" She glanced at the chaos spreading through the docking ring. 10,000 credits. Half now, half on arrival. "We can pay 5,000 now," Kai lied, having barely a tenth of that sum. "The rest upon safe delivery to Verdante space." The woman barked a laugh. "Verdante space, do I look suicidal to you?" She studied them both for a moment, longer eyes lingering on Zia's distinctive features. 5,000 now, 15 on delivery to neutral territory. Final offer, and only because I despise the hegemony more than I fear them." "Agreed," Kai said quickly. The pilot gestured toward her ship. "I'm Lydia. Some call me the Duchess. My ship is the Morning Star. Get aboard and strap in. And if you're bringing trouble, keep it away from my vessel." They hurried up the ramp, the Duchess sealing it behind them. The ship's interior was utilitarian but well-maintained cargo netting, securing various containers labeled with innocuous shipping codes that Kai suspected concealed far more interesting contents. "Payment," the Duchess said, holding out her hand as they reached the passenger compartment. Kai hesitated, but Zia stepped forward, removing something from beneath a fold in her prisoner's garment. She placed a small, crystalline object in the smuggler's palm, a gemstone that caught the light in impossible ways, refracting it into colors Kai had never seen. The Duchess's eyes widened momentarily before her professional mask returned. "This will do." She pocketed the gem and gestured to the acceleration couches. "Secure yourselves. Departure won't be gentle." She disappeared into the cockpit, leaving them alone. Kai turned to Zia. "What was that?" "A focusing crystal from my homeworld," she replied, securing herself into one of the couches. "Worth approximately 50,000 of your credits to the right buyer." Kai strapped himself in beside her, processing this information. "You had that the whole time. You could have bribed your way out of the station without my help." Zia's expression remained impassive. "The crystal was hidden in a biocompatible capsule beneath my skin. I could not access it while restrained, nor could I have navigated the station alone while being hunted." Her violet eyes met his. "Our meeting served us both, Kai Mercer." The ship's engines roared to life, vibrating through the hull. The Duchess's voice came over the intercom. "Departure in 30 seconds. Station control is attempting to override bay doors. This might get interesting." As if punctuating her words, an explosion rocked the docking bay outside. The ship's external cameras showed hegemony mercenaries pouring onto the docking ring, firing indiscriminately at security forces and civilians alike. "They're determined to recapture you," Kai observed grimly. "Not me," Zia corrected. "What they believe I represent." The ship lurched, as it lifted off inertial dampeners, struggling to compensate for the Duchess's aggressive piloting. The hegemony has been attempting to infiltrate Verdante space for decades. They believe they can extract our biotechnology through study of our physiology. The Morningstar rotated sharply its hull, scraping against the bay doors as they began to close. For a moment, Kai thought they were trapped. Then the Duchess fired the ship's concealed weapons, blasting a section of the door mechanism. They shot through the gap, bursting into open space amid a shower of debris and escaping atmosphere. "Station cleared," the Duchess announced over the intercom, sounding almost cheerful. 3 hegemony pursuit vessels detected, calculating jump to hyperspace. The stars outside the viewport began to blur as the ship accelerated away from the station. A series of impacts rattled the hull long-range weapons fire from their pursuers. "Our shields will hold for approximately 90 seconds, the Duchess informed them calmly. "If we survive that long, we'll make the jump." Kai unstrapped himself, moving to the gun turret access. "Where are the weapons controls?" "Port corridor second hatch," came the reply. "Try not to get us all killed." He climbed into the gunner's position, familiarizing himself with the controls. The ship's weapon system was military-grade illegal for civilian vessels, but common among successful smugglers. As he swiveled the turret to face their pursuers, Zia's voice came through the local comm. "You have combat training beyond the fighting pits." It wasn't a question. Kai targeted the lead pursuit craft, letting muscle memory guide his movements. "Colonial Marines 6th Division, before my family's debt caught up with us." He fired a sustained burst, catching the lead vessel's forward shields. They flared brilliant blue under the assault, but held. The pursuing ships broke formation, coming at them from multiple vectors. "The Duchess requires 20 more seconds for the jump calculations," Zia reported. "I will assist with the auxiliary weapon system." Kai heard her moving to the second weapon station. Moments later, precision fire erupted from the Morningstar's ventral turret, striking the nearest hegemony vessel at a vulnerable junction between hull plates. The ship faltered, venting atmosphere. "Marines training is evident in your targeting," Zia commented, continuing to fire with unsettling accuracy. "Though your fighting style has become less disciplined in the pits." Kai laughed, despite himself swinging his turret to intercept a second vessel, attempting to flank them. "Is this really the time for performance evaluation?" "Combat assessment is valuable in any circumstance," she replied calmly, disabling the primary engine of the damaged pursuit craft. "Your adaptability is impressive for a human." Before Kai could respond, the Duchess's voice cut through the comm. "Jump in 5 seconds. Brace for transition." The stars stretched into lines. Then the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace enveloped them. Kai exhaled slowly, securing his weapon system, before climbing down from the turret. Zia met him in the corridor, her expression serene despite the battle they'd just survived. "The Duchess has plotted a course to the Kronos trading outpost," she informed him. "A 17-hour journey." Kai nodded, suddenly aware of his exhaustion. He'd fought 3 arena battles, discovered his sister's situation was far worse than he'd believed, freed an alien princess, and battled hegemony forces, all within the past 12 hours. The Duchess emerged from the cockpit, eyeing them both critically. "We've lost them for now, but the hegemony has a long reach. I need to know exactly what I've gotten myself into." She fixed her gaze on Zia. "Starting with why they want you badly enough to risk a station incident." Zia seemed to consider her response carefully. "I was on a diplomatic mission to the Arcturus system when my vessel was ambushed. The hegemony has long coveted Verdante biotechnology. They believe studying our physiology will reveal its secrets. That's worth sending recovery teams but not causing an interstellar incident," the Duchess countered. "Try again." A slight smile touched Zia's lips. "You are perceptive, Duchess. The truth is more complex." She glanced at Kai. "The hegemony has discovered that humans possess a unique neural compatibility with certain Verdante biotechnology. They have been conducting experiments on human subjects attempting to exploit this connection." Kai felt a chill run through him. "Human subjects like mining camp laborers who won't be missed." Zia nodded. "Precisely. Places like Viscaris 7 where your sister is held. The Duchess leaned against the corridor wall, her expression grim. That tracks with rumors I've heard. The Hegemony has been transporting special cargo from mining colonies to research stations in the Outer Rim. She studied Zia. But that still doesn't explain why they want you specifically. I was investigating these operations, Zia replied. As a member of the Verdante High Council, I have access to classified information about our biotechnology. The Hegemony believes they can extract this knowledge directly from my neural pathways. Kai processed this information connections, forming in his mind. So, my sister might not just be mining stellium ore. She could be part of these experiments. It is a possibility we must consider, Zia said quietly. The Hegemony selects subjects based on neural scans that all corporate workers undergo during processing. Those with specific markers are diverted to special projects. The Duchess pushed away from the wall. Well, this has become significantly more interesting than a simple transport job. She fixed them both with a hard stare. New terms. I'll take you as close to Viscaris 7 as I can safely navigate. In exchange, I want access to Hegemony data on these experiments. Why? Kai asked sharply. Let's just say I have a personal interest in corporate overreach, the Duchess replied cryptically. I have contacts who would pay handsomely for proof of illegal human experimentation. Zia studied the smuggler for a moment. You seek evidence that could damage the Hegemony's operations. Smart and pretty, the Duchess said with a thin smile. Do we have a deal? Zia looked to Kai, who nodded slowly. Deal, he confirmed. But we'll need more than just transport. We need a way into the mining complex. One problem at a time, the Duchess advised, heading back toward the cockpit. Crew quarters are aft. Clean yourselves up and rest. We've got 17 hours before we reach Kronos, and I suspect none of us has slept properly in days. When she was gone, Kai turned to Zia. Is she trustworthy? She is motivated by profit and a personal vendetta against the Hegemony, Zia replied. Such motivations are predictable and therefore reliable to a point. She studied him with those unsettling violet eyes. You did not need to involve yourself in my escape. Why risk everything for a stranger? Kai considered the question. I don't trade in lives, not even for my sister's freedom. He ran a hand through his hair, suddenly aware of the dried blood and grime covering him. Besides, Xanthos made it clear my original plan was never going to work. I needed a new approach. You adapted to changing circumstances, Zia observed. A valuable trait, she gestured toward the crew quarters. You should rest. I require less sleep than humans, and I will monitor our journey. Kai wanted to argue, but exhaustion was catching up to him quickly. He nodded and made his way to the small cabin the Duchess had indicated. The narrow bunk looked impossibly inviting after years of sleeping on the hard platform in his fighter's quarters. He managed to clean the worst of the blood and grime from his skin before collapsing onto the bed, his last conscious thought fixed on Elise's face. He dreamed of mining tunnels that transformed into arena pits of Elise, crying out as faceless corporate scientists connected her to machines. He woke with a start, disoriented, until he remembered where he was, aboard the Morningstar, hurtling through hyperspace toward an uncertain confrontation. The ship's chronometer showed he'd slept for nearly 10 hours. He found fresh clothing in a storage compartment, plain garments, that would help him blend in at the trading outpost. His arena gear was too distinctive, too easily recognized. After changing, he made his way to the galley where he found Zia and the Duchess, studying a holographic display of what appeared to be a heavily fortified facility. The primary Viscaris Mining Corporation complex, the Duchess was saying, rotating the image. Your sister will most likely be held in the Eastern Quadrant, where they process new arrivals and conduct initial assessments. Kai stepped into the room. How did you get those schematics? The Duchess gave him an appraising look. I have my sources. Smugglers need to know their destinations intimately. She manipulated the display to zoom in on a particular section. The problem isn't getting to Viscaris 7. It's getting onto the surface without being detected, and then penetrating a corporate fortress. We will need a diversion, Zia said, studying the hologram intently. And an insider's access codes. The Duchess smiled thinly. As it happens, I might be able to help with both, but it will cost you another Verdante crystal. Zia met her gaze steadily. I carry no more, but I can offer something potentially more valuable, the location of a hegemony data repository, one containing evidence of their illegal operations across 3 sectors. The Duchess's eyes narrowed. And how would a Verdante princess happen to know the location of such a facility? I was not captured by accident, Zia replied calmly. My mission was to confirm the existence of this repository before I was extracted. I succeeded, though the extraction did not go as planned. Kai looked between them, processing this new information. So you weren't just investigating. You were conducting espionage. Intelligence gathering, Zia corrected. The distinction is important in interstellar law. The Duchess laughed a sharp, genuine sound. I'm starting to like you, Princess, she turned to Kai. Your companion has just significantly increased her value. That data would be worth a fortune to the right buyers. We're not selling anything until we get my sister out, Kai stated firmly. Of course not, the Duchess agreed, switching off the hologram. But this changes our approach. We need to make 2 stops first at Kronos to gather supplies, and intelligence then, at this hegemony facility to acquire the data, then finally to Viscaris 7 for your sister. Zia nodded. A logical sequence. The data may also contain information about the human subjects they've selected potentially, including your sister's current status and location within the mining complex. Kai considered this plan, weighing risks against potential benefits. How do we know the data is still there, or that we can access it? The facility is automated, Zia explained. Minimal personnel, maximum security systems. The hegemony values secrecy above all else for their most sensitive operations, which makes it ideal for a small expert team. The Duchess added a predatory gleam in her eye. I know people on Kronos who can provide the equipment we'll need. Kai studied the smuggler carefully. You seem unusually invested in this operation. What's your real interest in the hegemony? The Duchess's expression hardened momentarily. Let's just say they once took something that belonged to me too. She straightened her professional demeanor, returning. We drop out of hyperspace in 4 hours. Get yourselves ready. Kronos waits for no one, and neither do I. 2 days later, Kai found himself crouched in a maintenance tunnel, watching as Zia methodically bypassed the security protocols on a nondescript facility embedded in a barren asteroid. The Duchess waited in the Morningstar, hidden in a debris field, half a kilometer away, ready for immediate extraction. Their stop at Kronos had been productive, if tense. The Duchess had indeed known people who could provide the specialized equipment they needed: advanced slicing gear, adaptive camouflage suits, and industrial-grade explosives. She'd also arranged a meeting with a former hegemony security officer willing to sell current access codes for an exorbitant sum. Throughout their preparations, Kai had watched Zia with growing fascination. The Verdante princess operated with a precision and focus that spoke of extensive training far beyond diplomatic protocols. She adapted instantly to unfamiliar technology, anticipated security measures before they were encountered, and demonstrated combat skills that rivaled his own military training. Final firewall disabled, Zia murmured now, her long fingers dancing across the holographic interface. We have access to the primary data core. 6 minutes until the system registers the intrusion. Kai moved forward, inserting the specialized data crystal they'd acquired on Kronos. Initiating transfer protocol. They worked in practiced silence, Zia maintaining their access, while Kai navigated the labyrinthine data architecture. The hegemony's security was formidable, but followed predictable corporate patterns that the former security officer had detailed. There, Zia suddenly said, pointing to a file directory labeled Project Ascendant. That is what we seek. Kai directed the transfer system to copy everything within that directory. As the data flowed onto their crystal, fragmented information flashed across the terminal research notes, subject profiles, neural mapping data. His eyes caught a familiar name scrolling past. "Elise Mercer," he whispered, his heart pounding. "She's part of it." Zia placed a hand on his arm the first time she had initiated physical contact with him. "Focus, Kai. We complete the mission, then we find her." He nodded, forcing himself to continue monitoring the transfer. When it reached completion, he removed the crystal and secured it in his protective case. "Transfer complete. Let's move." They retreated the way they had come, through maintenance tunnels and emergency access ways, avoiding the automated security systems. Just as they reached their entry point, alarms began to blare throughout the facility. "Perimeter breach detected," announced a synthesized voice. "Initiating containment protocols." Zia frowned. The system responded faster than anticipated. "Run now, analyze later," Kai replied, activating the access panel that would open the outer airlock. Nothing happened. "They've overridden the exit protocols." Zia quickly connected her slicing device to the panel. "I can bypass the override, but it will take approximately 40 seconds. Kai unholstered the compact pulse rifle they'd acquired on Kronos. "I'll buy you time." He positioned himself at the junction where the maintenance tunnel met the main corridor, ready to intercept any security forces. The facility's defense systems activated automated turrets emerging from ceiling panels, beginning to sweep the corridors methodically. Kai targeted the nearest one, his pulse rifle, making short work of its targeting sensors. The station's synthesized voice continued announcing escalating security measures as Zia worked on the airlock controls. "Got it," she finally announced. "Outer door opening in 5 seconds." Kai backed toward her position, keeping his weapon trained on the corridor. "The Duchess better be ready for pickup." "She will be," Zia replied with surprising confidence. 3, 2, 1. The airlock cycled open, exposing them to the vacuum of space. Their protective suits automatically sealed, providing oxygen and protection against the cold void. They launched themselves out of the facility, using maneuvering thrusters to guide their trajectory toward the prearranged extraction point. Behind them, the facility's external defenses came online, automated drones deploying to intercept unauthorized departures. Kai fired backward as they flew, disabling the leading drone, but more were quickly approaching. Duchess Zia transmitted on their secure channel. "Immediate extraction required." "Already on approach," came the smuggler's calm reply. "Providing covering fire in 3 seconds. Brace yourselves." The Morningstar suddenly appeared from behind a large asteroid fragment, its weapon systems already firing at the pursuing drones. The ship's cargo bay doors stood open, a magnetic field, maintaining atmosphere within, while allowing them to enter. Kai and Zia adjusted their trajectory, using the last of their maneuvering fuel to aim for the opening. They sailed through the field, impacting the padded interior wall with controlled force. Gravity returned as they crossed the threshold, dropping them to the deck. "Cargo secured," Kai transmitted, as he pulled himself to his feet. The bay doors closed immediately, and the ship accelerated away from the facility. Kai helped Zia up, both of them removing their helmets, as the bay repressurized. "Did you get what we need?" the Duchess asked over the intercom. Kai patted the secure case containing the data crystal. "Everything, including confirmation that my sister is part of their project." "Then let's not waste time," the Duchess replied. "Plotting course to Viscara 7. In the ship's small briefing room, they connected the data crystal to the Morningstar's secure analysis system. Information about Project Ascendant filled the holographic display: research notes, experiment logs, subject profiles, and genetic analysis. "They've been screening human populations for decades," Zia observed, navigating through the files. "Searching for specific neurological markers that indicate compatibility with Verdante biotechnology." Kai studied the information with growing horror. "These are human beings they're treating like lab specimens. Children, workers, colonists." He found Elise's file and opened it, steeling himself for what he might see. Her image appeared thinner, than when he'd last seen her with dark circles under her eyes, but alive. The data showed she had been transferred from general mining duties to Special Research Division 8 months earlier. Her status was listed as Phase 2 Subject High Compatibility. "She's still at the main mining complex," Kai said, relief mingling with renewed determination. "In the research wing of the Eastern Quadrant, just as the Duchess predicted." Zia was examining other files, focusing on technical specifications and research methodologies. The hegemony has discovered that approximately 1 in 50,000 humans possesses a unique neural configuration that can interface directly with Verdante Biotech. They're using these subjects to attempt to decode and replicate our technology. "Can they succeed?" the Duchess asked, entering the room with 3 steaming cups of Synthicaf. Zia accepted one of the cups with a graceful nod. "No. They fundamentally misunderstand the nature of our technology. It is not merely biological or mechanical, but a synthesis that requires specific cultural and philosophical frameworks to properly implement." She sipped the bitter liquid without reaction. "But they will cause immense suffering to your kind in their attempts." Kai continued reviewing Elise's file, searching for any information that might help in their rescue attempt. "It says her next procedure is scheduled for tomorrow at 1400 hours. That gives us less than 20 hours to get her out." The Duchess brought up the schematics of the mining complex again. "The research wing will have the highest security in the entire facility. We need a way to get inside undetected." Zia pointed to a section of the schematics. "The environmental control systems. All research facilities require precise atmospheric conditions. The maintenance access for these systems would provide a potential entry point, which would still require security credentials and a reason to be there," the Duchess countered. Kai studied the schematics more carefully, drawing on his military training. "We don't infiltrate as maintenance. We go in during an emergency." He looked up at his companions. "We create a situation that forces them to evacuate that section of the facility." The Duchess smiled slowly. "I like how you think, fighter. What kind of emergency did you have in mind?" "Something that threatens their research, but not the subjects," Kai replied. "A controlled atmospheric contamination in the adjacent section. They'd have to move all subjects to the secondary facility while they decontaminate, during which time security would be focused on the evacuation rather than potential infiltrators." Zia continued his thought. "The data indicates that atmospheric alerts trigger automatic safety protocols that override normal security measures." The Duchess nodded approvingly. "I can modify some of our explosives to release a harmless but detectable gas that will trigger their sensors." She pointed to a different section of the schematic. "We'd need to place it here in the environmental processing hub for the research wing. Which still leaves us with the problem of getting onto the planet's surface undetected," Kai noted. "Not necessarily," Zia said, bringing up a different file from the data they'd stolen. "According to this schedule, a supply transport is due to arrive at the mining complex 12 hours from now. If we can intercept and replace their crew..." The Duchess grinned. "Now you're thinking like a proper smuggler princess." They spent the next 6 hours refining their plans, studying the data for any additional information that might help, and preparing their equipment. The Duchess set course for Viscaris 7, approaching from the system's outer reaches to avoid early detection. As they entered the planet's gravity, well disguised as a routine supply transport, thanks to identification codes from the stolen data, Kai found himself alone with Zia in the ship's observation lounge. The toxic world below them glowed a sickly yellow-brown through the viewport, its atmosphere thick with sulfurous clouds. "My sister has been breathing that for 3 years," he said quietly. Zia moved to stand beside him, her violet eyes reflecting the planet's baleful light. "You have never stopped fighting for her freedom. That persistence is admirable." Kai glanced at her. In the days since their escape from the fighting pits, he had come to respect her skills and intelligence, but the Verdante remained enigmatic, revealing little about herself, beyond what was necessary for their mission. "You mentioned a debt bond when I freed you," he said. Is that why you're helping me rescue Elise to repay a debt? Zia was silent for a moment. Initially, yes. Among my people, life debts are sacred obligations. She turned to face him directly. But I have since learned that your sister is not merely a mining slave, but a victim of experiments designed to exploit my world's technology. This makes her freedom a matter of Verdante security, as well as personal honor. And after, Kai asked, assuming we succeed, what then? I must return to my people with the information we have gathered, she replied. The High Council must be informed of the High Gemini's actions. As for you and your sister, she hesitated. The High Gemini will not stop hunting subjects who have demonstrated high compatibility. Anywhere within human space, you would remain targets. The implication hung in the air between them. Before Kai could respond, the Duchess's voice came over the intercom. We're on final approach. Get to your positions. This is where the real fun begins. The supply transport ruse worked flawlessly. With the Duchess piloting and Kai and Zia disguised as corporate crew, they landed at the mining complex's cargo port without raising suspicions. The atmospheric contaminant devices were concealed within routine supply crates, ready to be deployed at the crucial moment. Kai felt a strange calm descend as they enacted their plan. This was familiar territory mission parameters, tactical objectives, contingency planning. The cargo supervisors barely glanced at their forged credentials, more concerned with processing the shipment quickly than verifying identities. Section 4 Delivery. The Duchess told the loading dock manager, indicating the cargo manifest. Environmental filters and processing equipment. Priority clearance. The manager nodded disinterestedly. Bay 12. Technical team will meet you there. They guided the hover pallets through the complex's utilitarian corridors, passing exhausted miners and bored security personnel. Kai kept his face neutral, but his eyes constantly scanned for information. Guard rotations, camera positions, access points. The mining complex was massive, housing thousands of workers in conditions that made his stomach churn. Gaunt faces, hollow eyes, the occasional hacking cough that spoke of respiratory damage from the toxic atmosphere. Bay 12 was located near the environmental processing hub, exactly as they'd planned. The technical team consisted of two bored-looking engineers who were easily convinced to take a break while the specialized delivery crew handled the installation. We have approximately 20 minutes before they expect results, Zia murmured as they began unpacking the crates, revealing both legitimate equipment and their hidden devices. The Duchess nodded, already connecting the first contaminant device to the atmospheric intake system. I need 15 to set up all 3 units. Then we move to extraction positions. Kai consulted the facility schematic they'd memorized. I'll be at Junction E7 outside the research wing. Princess, you take the secondary evacuation route. Duchess, stick to the loading bay and prep the ship. They worked with practiced efficiency, each focusing on their assigned tasks. The Duchess completed the installation of the devices, programming them to activate in precisely 30 minutes, enough time for them to reach their positions, but not so long that their presence might be discovered. Devices active, she confirmed. Timer counting down. Good hunting, you two. They separated, moving through the complex using the service corridors and maintenance tunnels identified in their planning. Kai made his way toward the research wing, his pulse quickening as he neared the place where Elise was being held. He wore a maintenance uniform with appropriate identification tags, allowing him to move without immediate suspicion, but he knew that deeper within the secure areas, such disguises would be useless. He reached Junction E7 with 7 minutes to spare before the devices activated. Taking position in a maintenance alcove, he observed the security protocols for the research wing, 2 armed guards, biometric scanners, and automated defense systems. Formidable, but designed to keep people out, not manage an emergency evacuation. His comm unit vibrated silently. In position, came Zia's voice. Secondary route secured. Loading bay clear, the Duchess confirmed. Ship prepped for immediate departure. Kai checked the timer on his wrist display. 3 minutes to activation. Stand by. Those 3 minutes stretched like hours. Kai controlled his breathing, centering himself as he had before countless arena fights. But this was different. This wasn't for money or survival. This was for Elise, for freedom. The timer reached 0. For several seconds, nothing happened. Kai felt a moment of doubt had the devices failed. Then alarms began to blare throughout the complex. Warning: atmospheric contamination detected in research sector. Initiating emergency protocols. All personnel evacuate to designated safety zones. All research subjects to be transferred to secondary facility immediately. The reaction was immediate. Security doors slid open, overridden by emergency systems prioritizing evacuation over containment. Medical personnel in protective gear emerged from the research wing, guiding gurneys carrying sedated subjects. Kai scanned each face desperately as they passed, looking for Elise. "Do you have visual on the target?" Zia asked through the comm. "Negative," Kai replied tensely. Continuing observation. More subjects emerged, their conditions ranging from ambulatory to fully sedated. Then he saw her, thinner than in her file image, with her dark hair cropped short, but unmistakably Elise. She was conscious but disoriented, walking with assistance from a medical technician, an IV port visible in her arm. "Target acquired," Kai reported, moving to intercept at checkpoint 3. He left his hiding place, joining the flow of evacuating personnel. The emergency had created precisely the confusion they'd hoped for. Security focused on managing the evacuation rather than checking identities. Medical staff concerned with their patients rather than unfamiliar faces. Kai maneuvered through the crowd, closing the distance to Elise and her escort. The technician guiding her was focused on his datapad, monitoring her vital signs while following the evacuation route. As they approached checkpoint 3, a junction where the main corridor split toward different safety zones, Kai made his move. "This one goes to Zone B," he said authoritatively, stepping forward to take Elise's other arm. "Director's orders." The technician glanced up, frowning. "My instructions are for Zone A with the other Phase 2 subjects." Kai produced a forged authorization on his datapad. "Updated protocol. Contamination has spread to Zone A preparation area. All high-value subjects diverted to Zone B." The technician hesitated, looking between his datapad and Kai's forged documents. In that moment of indecision, Zia appeared from a side corridor, wearing medical scrubs with appropriate identification. "Is there a problem?" she asked crisply. "Zone B transport is waiting and we have 14 more subjects to move." The combination of authority documentation and the ongoing emergency alarms proved persuasive. The technician nodded, transferring Elise's medical data to Kai's pad. "Subject 437 Phase 2. Mild sedation, only prep for hypersleep, was interrupted by the alarm," he reported mechanically. "Noted," Kai replied. "We'll take her from here." The technician hurried away to assist with other evacuees. Kai finally looked directly at his sister's face. Her eyes were unfocused pupils, dilated from whatever drugs they'd administered, but a flicker of recognition crossed her features. "Kai," she whispered uncertainly. "It's me, Elise," he confirmed, his throat tight. "We're getting you out of here." Her brow furrowed in confusion. "Out, but the treatments. They said I'm helping." "Later," Zia interrupted gently but firmly. "We must move now." They guided Elise down the side corridor Zia had emerged from, away from the main evacuation routes. She was unsteady, but able to walk with their support. Kai kept one hand near his concealed weapon, ready for any challenge to their progress. "Duchess, we have the package," Zia reported through their comm. "Proceeding to extraction point via maintenance tunnel 7C. "Acknowledged," came the response. "Be advised, security is increasing at all exit points. Primary extraction route may be compromised." Kai exchanged a glance with Zia. They had anticipated this possibility. Implementing contingency Omega, he decided. "Meet us at the emergency atmospheric processing vents eastern quadrant." "That's cutting it close," the Duchess warned. "The vents are only open during active purge cycles, which will begin in approximately 12 minutes when the system attempts to clear the contaminant," Zia pointed out. "We will require precisely timed extraction." Your funeral if you're wrong, the Duchess muttered. Repositioning now. They continued through the maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main corridors where security would be most concentrated. Elise became more alert as they moved, the effects of the sedation beginning to wear off. Kai, what's happening? She asked, her voice stronger. Who is she? Where are we going? I'm getting you out just like I promised, he told her, supporting her weight as they navigated a narrow access ladder. This is Zia. She's helping us. Elise studied the Verdante with widening eyes. You're like the ones they showed us in the orientation vids. The ones with the special tech. Yes, Zia replied simply. And you are one of those they believe can interface with that technology. They said we were helping advance human medicine, Elise said, confusion and betrayal dawning on her face. That the procedures would benefit colonies suffering from atmospheric toxicity. Kai helped her through a tight junction in the tunnel. They lied. They're using you to try to steal Verdante biotechnology for corporate profit and military applications. They reached the atmospheric processing chamber, a vast space filled with machinery designed to filter the planet's toxic atmosphere for use within the complex. At its eastern edge were the emergency purge vents, massive outlets that would open to release contaminated air during the imminent cleaning cycle. We have 3 minutes until the purge begins, Zia announced, checking the system's status on a nearby terminal. The vents will open for approximately 40 seconds. Kai guided Elise to the designated position near one of the vents. When they open, we jump. The Duchess will be waiting with the ship directly outside. Elise stared at the sealed vent in disbelief. Jump into the toxic atmosphere. We'll die in seconds without protective gear. The Duchess will catch us in the cargo bay, Kai assured her. We'll be exposed for less than 10 seconds, which is approximately 7 seconds longer than unprotected humans can survive in Viscaris 7's atmosphere, Zia noted clinically. Hence these. She produced 3 compact breathing masks from her medical coat. Emergency filtration. Limited duration, but sufficient for our needs. Elise looked between them, reality finally breaking through her drug-induced haze. You really came for me. After all this time. Kai squeezed her hand. I never stopped trying. A distant explosion rocked the complex, vibrating through the metal floor beneath them. Kai's comm activated immediately. Company's here, the Duchess reported tersely. Someone figured out our little atmospheric trick. Security teams converging on all exit points. As if confirming her warning, a klaxon began to sound different from the evacuation alarm, more urgent. Security alert. Unauthorized personnel in environmental section. Lockdown protocols initiated. Kai checked his weapon. How long until the vents open? 90 seconds, Zia replied, distributing the breathing masks. But security will reach us before then. Then we hold them off, Kai stated simply, positioning himself at the only entrance to their section of the vast chamber. Get Elise ready to move the instant those vents open. The first security team appeared moments later, 4 guards in standard corporate tactical gear, pulse rifles raised. Kai didn't hesitate, firing in a controlled burst that dropped 2 before they could properly assess the situation. The others took cover, returning fire that ricocheted off the machinery around him. 45 seconds, Zia called out, helping Elise with her breathing mask. Kai maintained suppressing fire, forcing the guards to keep their heads down. But more would be coming. He could hear communications chatter and the sound of running footsteps approaching from multiple directions. 30 seconds. A new group of guards appeared at a different entrance, catching Kai in a crossfire. A pulse blast grazed his shoulder, burning through the maintenance uniform to sear the flesh beneath. He gritted his teeth against the pain, adjusting his position to maintain coverage of both entrances. 20 seconds. Zia suddenly moved to his side, producing a compact Verdante weapon that emitted brilliant green energy bursts, temporarily blinding the nearest group of guards. Take Elise to the vent. I will cover our retreat. Kai hesitated, unwilling to leave her exposed. Go, she insisted. Complete the mission, Kai Mercer. He nodded once, backing toward where Elise waited by the vent. The security forces were multiplying, more tactical teams pouring into the chamber from multiple access points. 10 seconds, Zia called, maintaining a barrage of covering fire that kept the guards at bay. She began backing toward them, her movements fluid and precise even in combat. 5 seconds. The massive vent mechanisms began to activate hydraulic systems, engaging with a deep, mechanical groan. Beyond the toxic yellow-brown atmosphere of Viscaris 7, waited swirling with corrosive particles. Vents opening, Zia announced, reaching their position. Masks on now. They secured their breathing masks as the vents slowly cranked open. Wind immediately began to howl around them as the higher-pressure interior air rushed toward the opening. Duchess, we need immediate extraction, Kai shouted into his comm over the roaring wind. In position, came the reply. Jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. They leapt through the opening, Kai gripping Elise's hand tightly, while Zia followed a split second behind. For a terrifying moment, they were falling through Viscaris 7's caustic atmosphere, the toxic wind burning any exposed skin despite the masks filtering their breathing. Then, the Morning Star appeared below them, cargo bay doors open, rising to intercept their fall. They crashed onto the padded deck as the Duchess had positioned the ship perfectly beneath their exit point. Even as they landed, the doors were already closing, and the ship accelerating away from the mining complex. Cargo secured, Zia called out, pulling off her mask as the bay repressurized. Hang on, the Duchess shouted over the intercom. We've got company. The ship lurched violently as it evaded pursuit fire. Kai helped Elise remove her mask, checking her for injuries from their rough landing. Apart from some minor atmospheric burns on her exposed skin, she seemed physically intact, though shock and confusion still dominated her expression. Welcome aboard the Morning Star, he told her with a weary smile. Sorry about the rough exit. Pursuit vessels launching from the complex, the Duchess reported. 3 security cruisers, heavy armaments. Kai helped Elise to a secure couch along the bay wall, strapping her in. Stay here. I need to help with defense. She caught his hand. Kai, wait. The others there were dozens in the research wing. We just left them there. The guilt in her eyes tore at him. We couldn't save everyone, Elise, not this time. But they'll be punished because I escaped, she insisted. They didn't do anything wrong, they're victims just like me. Zia approached her expression solemn. Your concern honors you, Elise Mercer. But know that your escape serves a greater purpose than just your freedom. She looked to Kai. The data we acquired will expose the hegemony's illegal experiments. It may help free all those who remain. The ship rocked again as it absorbed weapons fire. A little help up here, the Duchess called urgently. Go, Elise said, releasing Kai's hand. I'm not going anywhere this time. Kai and Zia raced to the weapon stations, taking control of the Morning Star's defense systems. The view screens showed 3 hegemony security vessels, in tight pursuit, firing continuous salvos at their engines. Our shields are holding, but not indefinitely, the Duchess reported from the cockpit. We need to lose them before we reach orbit, or we'll never make the jump to hyperspace. Kai studied the tactical display, assessing their options. There's a canyon system to the northwest running through the mining region. The atmospheric turbulence might give us cover. And crash us into a rock wall, the Duchess countered. Those canyons are notorious death traps. I have flown similar terrain on Verdante, Zia stated calmly, adjusting her targeting systems to maintain defensive fire. The principle is the same: use the turbulence to disrupt pursuit sensors, while maintaining a predictable trajectory yourself. The Duchess was silent for a moment. Taking us into the canyons, she finally announced. Try not to get us all killed. The ship banked sharply, descending toward the jagged landscape below. The security vessels followed, their heavier frames less maneuverable, but their weapons still dangerous. The Morning Star plunged into the canyon system, weaving between towering rock formations, shrouded in toxic mist. They're splitting up, Kai observed, tracking the pursuit vessels on sensors. Trying to box us in. Let them try, the Duchess replied grimly, her piloting skills evident as she navigated the treacherous terrain. The ship rolled and banked through narrow passages, where the toxic winds created unpredictable air currents. Zia maintained precision fire from her station, her shots finding vulnerable points on the pursuing vessels, despite the challenging conditions. One security cruiser faltered, smoke pouring from a damaged engine as it dropped behind. "One down," she reported calmly. The remaining two pursuers adjusted their strategy, one rising above the canyon to track them from higher altitude, while the other continued direct pursuit. The Morning Star shuddered as weapons fire from above penetrated the thin atmospheric barrier. "They're calling for reinforcements," the Duchess warned. "We've got orbital security vessels moving to intercept. We need to break free now, or we're trapped." Kai studied the tactical display, an idea forming. "There's a dust storm forming at the western edge of the canyon system. If we can reach it, the sensor interference would be significant," Zia concluded his thought. "But so would navigation hazards." "I'll take interference over capture," the Duchess decided, changing course toward the approaching storm front. "Brace for turbulence." The ship accelerated toward the roiling wall of yellow-brown particles ahead. The toxic dust of Viscera 7 churned into a massive storm by the planet's violent weather patterns. The pursuing vessels hesitated briefly before continuing their chase. "They're still with us," Kai reported. "Entering storm in 10 seconds. The Morning Star plunged into the dust storm visibility, immediately dropping to near zero. External sensors became unreliable proximity warnings, blaring as particulate density overwhelmed the detection systems. Switching to gravitational mapping, the Duchess announced, her voice tight with concentration. "Hold tight." The ship bucked and shuddered in the violent wind systems, struggling to compensate for the rapidly changing conditions. Behind them, the security vessels entered the storm, their heavier frames immediately battered by the swirling currents. "They're losing cohesion," Zia reported, monitoring their pursuers through what little sensor data remained functional. "Dropping to minimum safe speed." "Which we are not doing," the Duchess added grimly, maintaining their dangerous velocity through the blinding storm. "Calculating in dust storms. You fly better, not slower. You need to dance with the currents." For several harrowing minutes, they flew blind through the maelstrom, guided only by the Duchess's instincts and the ship's gravitational sensors. Then suddenly, they burst through the other side, emerging into clearer skies as the storm raged behind them. "Pursuit vessels," Kai asked immediately. Zia checked the sensors. "Still in the storm. One has lost power and is grounded. The other is attempting to circumnavigate but has fallen significantly behind." "Orbital security," the Duchess demanded. "Moving to intercept, but their trajectory suggests they're expecting us to head directly for orbit," Zia replied. "They have not yet detected our position." The Duchess changed course again, hugging the planet's surface. "Then we don't go up. We go around. Prepare for high-G maneuvers." The Morning Star accelerated close to the toxic surface, using the planet itself to shield them from orbital detection while they built velocity. When they finally did ascend, it was in a steep, powered climb that shot them past the orbital security vessels before they could adjust their intercept vectors. "Jump calculations complete," the Duchess announced as they broke free of Viscari 7's gravity well. "Hegemony vessels moving to pursue, but they won't catch us before we're gone." The stars elongated around them as the Morning Star entered hyperspace, leaving Viscari 7 and its corporate hell behind. Kai exhaled slowly, the tension of combat fading, replaced by the realization that they had succeeded. Elise was free. He made his way back to the cargo bay, finding his sister still strapped in, but now fully alert, the last of the sedatives having worn off. Zia was with her, carefully treating the atmospheric burns on her hands and face. "The green helps with the pain," Elise was saying, watching in fascination as Zia applied a Verdante healing compound to her skin. "It feels cool." "Verdante Biotech," Zia explained. "It recognizes damaged tissue and accelerates natural healing processes." Kai approached them, relief washing over him at the sight of his sister, thin and worn, but alive and free. "How are you feeling?" Elise looked up at him, her eyes clear for the first time since their rescue. Like I just woke up from a 3-year nightmare, she reached for his hand. You never gave up on me. Never, he confirmed, squeezing her fingers gently. But I had help. He nodded toward Zia. Elise studied the Verdante with new understanding. You're not just any Verdante, are you? The scientists, they showed us images, told us about your people. You're one of the important ones. Zia inclined her head slightly. I am 7th heir to the Verdante High Council. My mission was to investigate reports of human experimentation using our technology, which led you to be captured then, to the fighting pits, then to us, Kai summarized. A circuitous path, but effective in the end, Zia replied, with a hint of what might have been amusement. We have secured both a witness and data evidence of the Hegemony's crimes. What happens now? Elise asked, looking between them. The Hegemony won't stop looking for me, will they? No, Kai admitted. You're too valuable to them. Which is why you both must come to Verdante space, Zia stated calmly, as if suggesting nothing more unusual than a change in dinner plans. My people will ensure your protection while we address the Hegemony's violations of interstellar law. Kai stared at her. Verdante space humans aren't allowed in your systems. Exceptions exist for diplomatic necessities, Zia replied. Your sister's testimony combined with the data we acquired constitutes such a necessity. Elise looked uncertain. Your people would accept us after what humans have tried to do to you. The actions of corporations do not define an entire species, Zia said, with unexpected gentleness. My people understand this distinction. She hesitated, then added, and I have reported that you both have demonstrated honor, uncommon among any species. The Duchess's voice came over the intercom, interrupting their conversation. Not to break up the touching moment, but we have company ahead. Long-range sensors show Hegemony frigates entering this sector. They're casting a wide net. Kai moved immediately toward the cockpit. Options! Limited, the Duchess admitted as he entered. They've positioned vessels along all major hyperspace routes out of this sector. They're really determined to get their test subject back. Zia joined them, studying the tactical display with narrowed eyes. They would commit such resources to one escaped subject. They're not just after Elise, Kai realized. They want the data we stole, and you. All three would be invaluable to their research. The Duchess leaned back in her pilot's chair. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Any suggestions before we're boarded and executed? Zia was silent for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she straightened, decision made. There is one option. I can call for extraction. Extraction, the Duchess repeated. You have backup hiding in the sector. Not precisely hiding, Zia replied. Waiting. Verdante vessels have been monitoring the situation from the boundary of this sector. I have emergency protocols to summon them if necessary. Kai studied her with new understanding. You were never truly on your own, were you? This was all part of a larger operation. My capture was unplanned, she clarified. But yes, my mission was one component of a broader Verdante initiative to investigate and document Hegemony activities in human space. The Duchess laughed. Magnificent! The princess has had an ace up her sleeve all along. She gestured to the communications array. Use whatever you need. I'm certainly not eager to meet Hegemony interrogators today. Zia approached the communication system, accessing protocols hidden deep within its programming. Her long fingers moved with practiced precision as she input a complex series of commands. When she finished, she stepped back, her expression calm but alert. Message sent. Verdante vessels will intercept our position in approximately 17 minutes. The Hegemony will reach us in 15, the Duchess pointed out. That's cutting it close. Then we must delay them, Zia stated simply. For the next tense minutes, they prepared. The Duchess adjusted their course to utilize nearby spatial phenomena that would slow pursuit, while Kai readied the ship's weapon systems for what might be their final stand. Elise joined them in the cockpit, refusing to hide, while others fought for her freedom. Hegemony vessels approaching, the Duchess announced. 5 minutes to intercept. No sign of your Verdante friends yet, Princess. They will come, Zia replied with absolute certainty. The first Hegemony frigate appeared on their sensors, massive and heavily armed, designed for corporate security and military operations. 2 more followed, moving to surround the Morningstar. Incoming transmission, the Duchess reported. They're ordering us to power down and prepare for boarding. Stall them, Kai suggested. Ask for verification, demand to speak to someone in authority. The Duchess nodded, opening a channel. Hegemony vessels. This is Independent Transport Morningstar. We request verification of your authority in this sector. Please provide corporate authentication codes. The response was immediate and cold. Independent Transport, this is Hegemony Security Command. Power down immediately or be destroyed. You have stolen corporate assets and will be boarded by force. Buying time isn't working, the Duchess muttered. Plan B. Kai checked the weapon systems. We make a stand. Target their forward weapons arrays, try to disable rather than destroy. We just need a few more minutes. Commencing evasive maneuvers. The Duchess announced, sending the Morningstar into a series of tight spirals and rolls that would make targeting more difficult. The Hegemony frigates opened fire, energy weapons lancing through space around them. The Duchess's piloting kept them ahead of the worst barrages, but several shots connected the shields, absorbing the impacts with diminishing effectiveness. Shields at 60%. Kai reported returning fire with the Morningstar's more modest weapons. His shots struck the lead frigate's forward array, causing minimal damage against the larger vessel's defenses. 47%. He updated moments later as another barrage hit them. We can't take much more of this. Elise gripped the edge of the tactical station, her knuckles white. After everything, to be caught now? We are not caught yet, Zia stated firmly, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. 3 minutes. The Hegemony vessels tightened their net, coordinating their fire to limit the Morningstar's escape options. A particularly violent impact rocked the ship consoles, sparking as power fluctuated. Direct hit, the Duchess called out. Shields at 23%. One more like that and we're done. 2 minutes, Zia said calmly. The lead Hegemony frigate moved to block their path completely, its massive bulk dwarfing their smaller vessel. A tractor beam activated the energy field, reaching out to ensnare the Morningstar. They're pulling us in, the Duchess reported urgently, the engines straining against the powerful beam. Maximum power to engines. 1 minute, Zia announced, still impossibly composed. The tractor beam strengthened the Morningstar's engines, howling in protest, as the distance between vessels steadily decreased. Boarding was now imminent. We need to prepare for close combat, Kai said grimly, checking his weapon. Duchess, is there a secure location on board where Elise can hide? Before she could answer, Zia's voice cut through their desperation. They are here. New contacts appeared on the sensor display, sleek vessels. Unlike anything Kai had ever seen, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent sheen that seemed to shift between silver and green. They moved with impossible grace, accelerating to combat velocity in seconds. Verdante warships, the Duchess breathed. I've never actually seen one up close. The effect on the Hegemony vessels was immediate. The tractor beam disengaged as they broke formation, turning to face this new and unexpected threat. But they were too slow, too clumsy in comparison. The Verdante vessels executed a perfect pincer movement, positioning themselves between the Morningstar and its pursuers. No communications were exchanged, no warnings issued. Green energy beams lanced out from the Verdante ships, striking the Hegemony frigates with surgical precision. Not to destroy, Kai noted, but to disable weapons engines and communication systems, all targeted in sequence. Within moments, the Hegemony vessels drifted powerless, all offensive capabilities neutralized. The largest Verdante ship extended what appeared to be a docking tube toward the Morningstar. They request our presence aboard, Zia translated, as symbols appeared on their communication display. All of us. The Duchess looked uncertain for the first time since Kai had met her. Are you sure that's wise? Verdante aren't exactly known for their hospitality toward humans. You are under my protection, Zia assured her, as is customary for those who aid in a royal mission. They docked with the Verdante vessel, the connection forming with a precision that spoke of vastly superior technology. As the airlock cycled open, Zia straightened her posture, her bearing suddenly more formal, more regal. Follow my lead, she instructed them quietly. Speak only when addressed directly. They entered the Verdante ship, and Kai immediately understood why few humans had ever seen the interior of such vessels. Everything from the architecture to the technology to the very lighting was designed for Verdante physiology and aesthetics. Corridors curved in mathematically perfect arcs, surfaces shifted subtly, as if alive, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with microscopic particles that responded to Verdante presence. A delegation awaited them, tall, elegant beings, similar to Zia, but with variations in their skin patterns and coloration. Their clothing was minimal, but exquisitely crafted, seemingly grown rather than manufactured. The central figure stepped forward, eyes the same violet as Zia's, but with an added ring of silver around the pupils. Zia inclined her head in what Kai recognized as a gesture of respect between equals rather than submission. She spoke in a language of musical tones and subtle harmonics that no human translation device could capture. The elder Verdante replied, then turned his attention to the humans. I am First Sentinel Vareth, he said in flawless English. Zia of Silver Canopy has informed us of your assistance in her mission and the recovery of the human test subject. His gaze lingered on Elise. You have our gratitude. The Duchess, for once, seemed at a loss for words. Kai stepped forward slightly. We appreciate your intervention, First Sentinel. Vareth gestured elegantly. Come. We must depart this sector before additional hegemony forces arrive. There is much to discuss. They were escorted to what appeared to be a command center, though unlike any Kai had seen. Rather than rigid stations and displays, the Verdante interacted with their ship through a combination of touch thought and what looked like a symbiotic relationship with the technology itself. The data you recovered confirms our worst suspicions, Vareth continued, as holographic representations of Project Ascendant appeared around them. The hegemony has been systematically testing human subjects for compatibility with our biotechnology for decades. Why? Elise asked, then added quickly, if I may ask. Vareth seemed unperturbed by her question. Verdante biotechnology represents an evolutionary path different from mechanical or digital advancement. Our systems are partially sentient, requiring a symbiotic, rather than extractive relationship with their users. He gestured to the displays showing human neural patterns. Your species possesses unusual neural plasticity. Approximately 1 in 50,000 humans has a brain structure capable of forming the connections our technology requires. Like Elise, Kai observed. Yes, though the hegemony's methods are crude and harmful, they correctly identified her potential. Vareth turned to Elise directly. The procedures you endured were attempts to force your neural pathways to adapt to their prototypes, derived from stolen Verdante biotechnology. Elise absorbed this information, her expression troubled. There were others like me in the facility. Dozens, maybe hundreds. What will happen to them? The data you helped secure will be presented to the Interstellar Regulatory Commission, Vareth explained. Evidence of illegal human experimentation will force intervention even in corporate-controlled space. And until then, Kai pressed, those people are still suffering. Zia exchanged a glance with Vareth before responding. We have already dispatched observers to all known hegemony research facilities. More direct intervention must wait for diplomatic channels, but no further subjects will be transported or experimented upon without our knowledge. The Duchess, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. And what about us? I've just helped steal a valuable corporate asset and transported her into Verdante space. My smuggling career will be somewhat complicated if I'm on the Hegemony's elimination list. Varith's expression remained unreadable. Your vessel is being equipped with Verdante diplomatic transponders. The Hegemony will not risk direct action against a ship under our protection. He turned to Kai and Elise. As for you two, a more permanent arrangement must be discussed. What kind of arrangement? Kai asked cautiously. Zia stepped forward. The High Council has authorized me to offer you sanctuary on Verdante. Not merely as refugees, but as official cultural liaisons between our peoples. Liaison, Elise repeated, confusion evident. The misuse of our technology by corporations does not change a fundamental truth, Varith explained. Human and Verdante neurology have complementary aspects that suggest a deeper connection between our species than previously acknowledged. This may be the appropriate time to explore formal diplomatic relations. Kai looked at Elise, trying to gauge her reaction. After 3 years fighting to free her from corporate bondage, the thought of taking her to an alien world was not what he had envisioned. Yet the alternative constant pursuit by the hegemony offered little genuine freedom. We would need time to consider this, he said finally. Of course, Zia agreed. But know that regardless of your decision, you both have earned the protection of my house. The debt bond between us ensures this. The conversation was interrupted as the Verdante ship accelerated smoothly into hyperspace, its advanced drive creating none of the vibration or noise typical of human vessels. The transition was so seamless that Kai barely felt it happen. We are en route to Verdante homeworld, Varith announced. You will have quarters appropriate to distinguished guests during our journey. As they were escorted to their accommodations, Kai found himself walking beside Zia. The Verdante princess, for he now fully understood, that was indeed her rank, moved with the same fluid grace she had shown in combat. But here among her people, there was an added dimension of authority and purpose. You planned this from the beginning, he observed quietly. From the moment I freed you from that cage. Zia considered his words. Not precisely. I had multiple contingencies for completing my mission and returning to my people. Your intervention created an unexpected opportunity. She paused, then added, but I did not anticipate that I would come to respect you as I do now. Because I helped free you. Because you maintained your honor, even when it would have been easier to abandon it. Her violet eyes met his directly. Such integrity is rare in any species. Before Kai could respond, they reached their assigned quarters, spacious chambers that somehow managed to accommodate both Verdante and human ergonomic needs. Elise immediately moved to the viewport, gazing in wonder at the altered hyperspace visible through the transparent wall. I never thought I'd see anything like this, she whispered, placing her palm against the cool surface. After years in those tunnels, breathing toxic air, seeing nothing but rock and metal, she turned to Kai, tears in her eyes. You gave me the stars back. He moved to stand beside her, his arm around her shoulders. We'll figure out what comes next together. No one's separating us again. The Verdante homeworld, she mused, watching the swirling patterns of hyperspace. Is it really as beautiful as the scientists claimed? I've never seen it myself, Kai admitted. It is, came Zia's voice from the doorway. She had returned now, dressed in formal attire that marked her royal status, flowing garments that seemed to have been grown, rather than woven, embedded with living crystalline structures that responded to her movements. Though its beauty is different from Earth's. Our forests are silver, our waters crystal. The moons rise together, casting light in patterns that change with the seasons. She stepped further into the room, her demeanor both regal and somehow more relaxed than Kai had yet seen. I came to inform you that we will arrive in approximately 48 of your hours. The High Council wishes to hear your testimony directly, Elise Mercer, if you are willing. Elise straightened her expression, becoming serious. About the experiments? Yes. Those people deserve justice. I want to help. Zia inclined her head in acknowledgement. Your courage honors you. She turned to Kai. The Council also wishes to discuss the possibility of a formal alliance between Earth and Verdante. The hegemony's actions have made clear that isolation is no longer sufficient protection for either of our worlds. Why me? Kai asked. I'm a former Marine turned pit fighter, hardly a diplomat. Because you understand both combat and honor, Zia replied simply. Such perspective will be valuable in the discussions to come. She paused, then added more quietly, and because I have named you as Bladekin to my house, among my people that grants you certain standing. With that revelation, she departed, leaving Kai and Elise to process everything that had transpired. The Duchess joined them shortly thereafter, having been given similar accommodations nearby. Well, she said, dropping into a seat designed for a different physiology, this has certainly exceeded the parameters of our original agreement. A Verdante diplomatic mission, I expected to be executed, or wealthy, not playing interstellar ambassador. Kai smiled slightly. Disappointed? Hardly. This is the most interesting job I've had in decades. She studied them both. Have you decided will you accept their offer of sanctuary? Elise looked to Kai, her expression thoughtful. What do you think after everything we've been through to be together again? Kai gazed out at the hyperspace patterns, considering their options. 3 years fighting in the pits, all to free his sister from corporate bondage. Now they were free but without a home, hunted by one of the most powerful entities in human space. And yet they had also found unexpected allies, possibly even friends, among the mysterious Verdante. I think, he said slowly, that sometimes freedom means making choices you never imagined. And sometimes family extends beyond blood. He turned to face Elise and the Duchess. I think we see where this path leads. As the Verdante ship carried them toward an uncertain future, Kai felt a strange sense of peace settle over him. The fighting pits were behind him. Elise was safe. And ahead lay possibilities he had never dared to dream of, not just survival, but purpose. On the observation deck later that evening, he stood alone watching the altered reality of hyperspace flow past like liquid light. Footsteps approached the distinctive cadence that he now recognized as Zia's. Contemplating our journey, she asked, coming to stand beside him. Contemplating change, he replied. 3 days ago, I was fighting for credits to free my sister from a mining camp. Now, we're on a Verdante royal vessel heading toward diplomatic negotiations that could reshape relations between our species. Life seldom follows predictable paths, Zia observed. That is true for Verdante as much as humans. What will your people really think of us? Kai asked directly. Not the official diplomatic position, but the truth. Zia considered his question with typical Verdante thoroughness. They will be cautious, curious, and conflicted as any people would be when faced with change. Some will see only threat, others opportunity. She turned to face him fully. But they will see what I have seen, that honor and compassion exist in humans, as they do in Verdante. That together, we may stand against corporate tyranny more effectively than either could alone. The silver light of hyperspace played across her features, highlighting the subtle bioluminescent patterns beneath her green skin. In that moment, she seemed both alien and familiar, a contradiction that perhaps defined their entire, unlikely alliance. Two unlikely partnerships, Kai said, echoing his thoughts. And to what they may become, Zia replied, her violet eyes reflecting the swirling cosmos beyond, as the ship carried them toward a shared future neither could have imagined.